Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. At a concert last week, Lizzo played a never-used crystal flute that once belonged to President James Madison. Trevor Noah said, yeah, it's a really cool way to bring attention to American history. Yeah, because now students will know that James Madison was the guy who did a collab with Lizzo, you know? James Corden said it was an amazing moment, even better than the time Guy Fieri ate chicken wings with George Washington's wooden teeth. Weird Al tweeted, big thanks to the Library of Congress for loaning me Grover Cleveland's accordion for the last month of my tour. Jim Gaffigan is heading over to the UK. The Guardian spoke with Jim Gaffigan, and he talked about his, quote, Trump rant, and he said, I'm somebody who does not think that anybody listens when a comedian or actor tells them to do something, but I had reached the point where I was so convinced there was this great con occurring that I was hoping to shake some moderate who might be from a small town in the Midwest like I'm from to not be conned. Is that how Jim sees himself? He says, yes and no. On the one hand, entertainment is the perception business, and because I was clean, I've got 5 kids, and I don't curse on stage, people made assumptions, oh, this guy's vanilla, he's milquetoast. In fact, I've always made some political jokes, but I've also always had the approach of it's better to convince someone of your point of view with subtlety than with a hammer. There's always been a conservative Mormon family sitting next to the lesbian couple. I never wanted to do us and them comedy. My whole thing is you can communicate a point of view without throwing a punch as if it were 2 a.m. outside a pub. You look at someone like Bill Hicks from the 90s, a great comedic mind, but a lot of what he says seems shocking by today's standards. Is that because we're too fragile now or because we're evolved? The concept of liberty for gay people has changed so dramatically since the 90s. So are we sacrificing some individual liberty by not saying things that are offensive to gay people? Or are we just learning a greater level of civility? Maybe I'm just a dumb guy, but I'm like, okay, if that ticks you off, I'm not going to say it. I don't feel like there's any freedom being infringed. Hasan Minhaj, The King's Jester, on Netflix today, filmed at the Brooklyn Academy of Music. He shares his thoughts on fertility, fatherhood, and freedom of speech. He's given some pretty interesting interviews lately that I'll talk about during the week. The Hollywood Reporter spoke to him and said, this material is more personal than what we've seen from you. Did you lean on people in your life to help get to that place of vulnerability? Minhaj said, I sent the show to a few people whose approval I really wanted, including Sam Spratt, who is the artistic designer of the 2017 special. He told me that he wished I'd gone deeper in exploring the idea of fame itself as the avatar of sin. He said, perhaps the way you needle dictators like Crown Prince MBS or Rodrigo Duterte is because you have more in common with them than not. Their unbridled chasing of power, fame, and clout at the expense of others is something you too have tasted. I've really thought about that since. In its purest form, what I love most about art is its ability to take human stories from the margins to the mainstream. Like the Hollywood Reporter asked, did discussing your desire for fame in the special free you of that desire of fame? Good question. Hasan Minhaj said, I think I'd put on the record that I'm checking my intentions. On a macro level, I'm certainly not running into any more Saudi Arabian embassies, no matter how good the joke is. On a micro level, when I have the urge to quote tweet someone and dunk on them, I don't do it. I recognize that as clout-chasing behavior. Another good question. Workshopping the special on tour, did any reactions to jokes surprise you or ultimately change the material? Hasan Minhaj said, I had no idea my joke about Bradley Minhaj, her adopted white baby, would crush it. It started as a throwaway idea. The audience also let me know when I went too far. I have the analogy of us saving him from a war-torn part of America, which is Detroit, and I used to say, they don't even have clean water there. But people were like, nope, don't make a Flint joke. More good stuff from the Hollywood Reporter. One theme of the special is learning to censor yourself after your jokes about Saudi Arabia. Did you have to censor yourself in the jokes about the jokes? Minhaj said, I had to find a balance of being honest but not provoking to the point of putting myself or my loved ones in danger. I remember back during the Saudi Arabia episodes, we made a graphic from the show Making a Murderer with a photograph of the Crown Prince. I have to give Netflix credit. They never censored me, but we had a discussion about the fact that people would use a screen grab of me standing in front of that screen. And is that the best path forward? Not everything has to be on TV, and a good comedian can save something for the right time. What was something you saved for the right time? I think it was better that I did a joke about Jared Kushner's WhatsApp friendship with the Crown Prince at the Time 100 dinner with Jared in the room than just run that graphic on a TV show. Really good stuff. I'll pick at that a little bit more tomorrow. From the Laugh Button back in 2020, comedians Shane Gillis and John McKeever started posting comedy specials on YouTube. It was a sign of what could have been in the wake of Gillis's abrupt firing from SNL. Talked about that recently. They have released their sketch comedy special, Gillian Keeves The Special. They taped it in August. The special features original sketch comedy, behind-the-scenes footage outtakes, as well as live footage from Gillian Keeves live at the TLA in Philadelphia. Gillian Keeves The Special, out now on GillianKeeves.tv. Kevin Hart was on Drink Champs, and he stuck up for Will Smith. Kevin said, studios took the gamble on more leads of color because of the work that Will Smith and Denzel Washington were doing in the beginning, right? You need the faces that are giving the universal return, so I'm not going to crap on Will and act like he hasn't been and wasn't that guy. Now, he conceded Will Smith made a mistake, but said he should be forgiven. And people make mistakes, and from mistakes, they should be allowed time to effing recover. That's no longer the world's problem. It's Will and Chris's problem. Let them deal with that. The world should step out of it and let them recover. Apple TV Plus announced that Mythic Quest is back for Season 3 on November 11th. Season 2 was rough, man. Rob, I love you, but what the hell? My son and I, we love It's Always Sunny. We kind of liked Season 1 of Mythic Quest. It was up and down. But you got Danny Pudi there, buddy. Why don't you use him? There were some episodes of Mythic Quest Season 2 where my son and I were like sitting there. It was like when Bart Simpson stares at the TV and can't believe what he's looking at, or in the recent Rick and Morty, where both Morty and Summer had that blank stare, if you saw the episode about Space Beth. My son and I, we were like, what is even going on? Couple episodes, a lot of fun. Then there'd be one and we're like, what are you even doing? And hey, Rob, why don't you actually be in the episodes? Anyway, third season of Mythic Quest is coming back. Ian and Poppy have now formed a company called Grim Pop Studios. And Dana is forced to play mediator to her boss's incessant bickering. Back at Mythic Quest, David settles into his new role as the boss, where this time he's truly in charge. Carol, whoever that is, attempts to figure out where she fits in after new promotion. Is she one of the game testers? I don't even remember. Rachel struggles to balance her morals with capitalism at Berkeley. She was one of the game testers. And best of all, a post-prison Brad, now that is Danny Pudi, returns to society as a reformed man. Mythic Quest, November 11th, 2 episodes, and then the remaining 8 rolling out weekly. Boy, I hope it's better than last year, Rob. Jaime Jarrin broadcasted Dodger games for 64 seasons. He's retiring. George Lopez paid tribute to him. George wrote an essay for Variety and said, Jaime Jarrin was your eyes and ears of a sport when you didn't speak the language. He allowed you to understand it. He would tell you what he saw on the field and make you feel like you were there. For me, hearing Jaime Jarrin's voice is equivalent to the smell of my grandmother's cooking and the warmth of her kitchen. It's a feeling that tells me I'm going to be okay, no matter what else is going on. And like my grandparents, Jaime Jarrin's voice has been there for me my whole life. Funny thing is, I came to prefer listening to Jarrin call Dodger games, and my grandfather preferred to listen to Vin Scully. Time out. I was there at a Dodger game in Dodger Stadium in 1998, and I brought my Walkman, and I went out of my way to listen to Vin, and I went out of my way to listen to an inning of Jaime. Lopez says, back in the day when people thought that their children should be seen and not heard, we didn't talk much, but baseball was something we did together. He's got a bit of royalty to him. He always speaks to everyone with a lot of respect, no matter who you are, but there's a humor and warmth there that he gives you from the beginning. It's not something that you ever feel like you have to earn with him. He takes you in, he puts your hand on your shoulder, talks straight to you. That's so unlike a lot of the men that I grew up around. You know who makes a lot of news for being dead? Well, the news isn't that he's dead, but a person who is dead, who's in this podcast a lot, Bob Saget. The Austin Film Festival unveiled its lineup, and it includes Bob Saget's final movie. It's called Daniel's Gotta Die. It also stars Jason Jones, Marilyn Ricecub, Carly Chaikin, and Iggy Pop. One of the creators of the film said Saget's passing came as a shock to the entire Daniel's Gotta Die team. He was a collaborator through and through, and he really loved the film. It's with great sadness that he never got to see it finished. I can't wait to see how audiences react, etc., etc. The film follows a man named Daniel, that's not played by Bob Saget, who attempts to reconnect with his family but discovers they want to kill him for his inheritance. The creator says Bob truly loved the script and took on a very fatherly role right from the start, eager to help out in any way he could. He really brought the character's heart to the surface of the script and was intent on making sure he always got it just right on set. He always had the script pages in hand and spoke with me often about making sure the character was as I intended. If there's one person who deserves to see this film, it's Bob Saget, and I'll always be sad he cannot. Vulture did their Comedians You Should Know, and I've been poking away at the list. I'm up to Ike Ofumadu. He starts his show by asking anyone else wearing shoes tonight, and the crowd cheers. Yeah, so I suppose I'm preaching to the choir when I say, and in a kind of Seinfeld voice, can you believe these things? He loves comedy because he loves language. Tell us one story from your childhood which explains why you ended up in comedy. Good story here. One day in second grade, we had a contest where we got called up to the chalkboard in pairs to see who could solve a math problem the fastest. I got called up with the class clown. I guess she thought she'd lose because she blurted out, "Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs," which killed. The room lost it. I wondered how she could be so funny and then wondered if I could be that funny too. Soon I got my hands on a couple 101 jokes for kids books, thinking I'd get the same big laughs by reading the jokes to other kids at recess. It didn't work, but something from that whole experience must have stuck with me. What comedy opinion hill will you die on? He said, I believe that one of the greatest innovations in comedy this decade is that on Pluto TV, there's a channel that streams The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I don't watch the show 24 hours a day, but the fact that at any time whatsoever I could just turn on that channel, it's a breakthrough that rivals the moon landing. Best comedy advice, worst comedy advice, best. One piece of advice I think about from time to time is just be yourself. It's the only way it can work. It said that Johnny Carson himself told this to Conan O'Brien when Conan was about to host Late Night for the first time. Worst advice? He can't remember any. He says, I think I only remember things that are useful to remember. And was so busy with Trevor Noah leaving The Daily Show and a Community movie and Saturday Night Live, I didn't get to tell you the Milwaukee Comedy Festival has kicked off. Good news, it runs through Sunday. Caitlin McCarthy is one of the organizers, and she said, my freshman year of college, I joined the committee that brought entertainment to campus, including stand-up comedians. That's honestly what hooked me for life. But then she added, my dad passed away during my junior year of college after a 4-year bout with cancer. After that, comedy became even more important. Lifeblood. I needed to laugh to forget how sad I was. My first 5 minutes on stage were about my dad's death and his fight with cancer. I find bits of humor in my past relationships, my major weight losses and gains, my late 20s partying phase, self-love in its many forms. I find it easier to talk about difficult subject matter in a way of relating to audiences who've more than likely gone through similar situations. And as a way of personally coping, it endears you to most audiences. She adds, you never want to hear awes when on stage. I'd rather hear silence after a punchline. I don't want you to feel sorry for me. I want you to laugh with me. That's what we're all here to do. As for the festival, we're not as big as other fests. We don't have corporate sponsorship. We put on damn good shows with talented people. We feature stand-up, sketch, and improv. A lot of fests are solely stand-up or just sketch and improv. And that's your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you get your shows, and I'll see you tomorrow.